guys, KO here. Welcome to Turmeric and Tequila, where we are working to inspire positive, radical social evolution. It is just you and I today. It's a solo cast. We are talking about kindness versus boundaries. This is an important one. I don't know who needs to hear this, but this one's for you, including me. There is a difference. Kindness is applicable at all times, but remember that boundaries are kindness to yourself. So this podcast is permission for you to embrace those boundaries, keep them at the forefront of whatever you need, and let's keep the conversation going around them so they are more socially acceptable and they are not misunderstood. A boundary is not meanness. It is kindness to yourself. So lean in. Enjoy this conversation. Have a great day and check us out wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to watch the video on YouTube. Cheers.
Welcome to Turmeric and Tequila with your host, Kristen Olson. Questioning a better way, one gracefully disruptive conversation at a time.
Welcome to Turmeric and Tequila. I'm excited to be with you today. This is a one-on-one cast. It is you and I, and we are going to break down kindness versus boundaries. I don't know who needs to hear this, but this is for you, and that likely includes myself. We're going to break down the definitions of kindness. We're going to break down the definition of boundaries, and we're going to talk about the difference between the two and why, boundaries can sometimes be misinterpreted, but how they can also actually be kindness towards yourself. So we know it's a popular buzzword, personal boundaries. You hear it all the time. It's in self-care, self-help, self-everything. But I don't think we fully understand how important boundaries are. And not everyone, family, friends, or, crew, social, cultural people, work people around us might not fully understand this conversation. So there might be a further misunderstanding of why you're putting a boundary out there for yourself. So there's a communication gap, but I want you to hold strong in your boundaries, even if it is misunderstood. This is a reminder that boundaries are deeply, deeply important, and you can still operate in a kind manner while still providing some boundaries. And the good thing is, KO Alliance, my company, we're here for influencer marketing and brand ambassadors. If you embrace it and you set a tone, your family, your friends, people around you will start to understand why you're putting up this boundary or why you're doing it. And likely in due time, they will follow and appreciate you for it. I know it's a journey in the in-between time, but stick with it. So let's just start. This is going to be a quick one by breaking down the definitions just so we're super clear. Kindness, the quality of being friendly, generous, and considerate. Kindness. A boundary, literally, is a line that marks the limits of an area, a dividing line. So that's usually we're talking about like physical location, or you're marking a boundary on a field or a sheet or whatever, like boundaries in sports, but applicable here, we're drawing a line. And then personal boundaries, or the act of setting boundaries is a life skill that has been popularized by self-help authors and support groups since the mid-1980s. It is the practice of openly communicating and asserting personal values as a way to preserve and protect against having them compromised or violated. So the 1980s, y'all, this conversation is not that new. So boundary is a literal line that we're dividing. Personal boundaries, it's the act of, so that's the act, non-tangible thing of us setting a boundary to protect our own core values or personal values so they will not be violated. Again, I know we're in 2020 here, and a lot of these things can start to sound a little cliche. We've heard them. They're a little bit buzzy, but the importance is that we are continuously embracing the idea of boundaries, whatever language you use, and knowing that if something doesn't feel right, or you feel like something is overstepping, or you're just uncomfortable, more than likely a boundary needs to be put in play. And you don't have to have these deeply formal, intense conversations about putting a boundary here. You can simply communicate. Something simple, like I don't feel comfortable with this conversation. Let's circle back in a week, or this isn't something comfortable I'm discussing. It doesn't have to be, I have a personal boundary around this conversation. You can do it casually, and you can make it happen in a very digestible way, regardless of your audience. So they just understand that this conversation or action or something has, crossed over into a space that I'm not comfortable being in. And this is where I'm going to step in and protect myself. So whatever language feels good to you in that is fine. Now, I've dealt a lot with friends or family or, coworkers. When you put up a boundary, it can feel mean, and it can feel like it's usually they'll think it's about them. Well, step number one in life, and I do this too, it's not all about us. Like everything other people are doing is not always about what we're doing to them. Sometimes we're not even that big of a conversation in their head. They might have a million other things going on, and they have a boundary because there's a bigger focus. I think athletes are the perfect example of this. Many times when I've been competitive, if I'm going in to get stretched or buy nutrition or something, I'm probably pretty quiet. I probably look a little shut down, but I'm just super focused on, I'm getting ready to compete. I'm going to be putting my uniform on, or if I'm in the training room and it's like, I need my ankle tapes. Let's do this. It's never inconsiderate. Kindness always leads, but I have a mental focus. I'm probably not as social as I usually am, or as chatty. Like I'm thinking about something else. Now on the flip side, my trainer, well, they probably know me very well because I'm in the training room all the time, but people around me that don't see me in a competitive mode might think, oh, she's really shut down. It must be me. Maybe she's mad at me. Maybe did I piss her off? Did I do something? Or, maybe something's up, whatever the story might be. But really I'm just focused because I'm getting ready for the game. I'm getting ready to compete. So my mindset is elsewhere. So if you're on the opposite side of the boundary, the person not making the boundary, know that it might not be about you. It might be about you. And that's when I really encourage people to use your voice and ask, be like, is everything okay? Is this a boundary for you, or whatever your natural language is, but communicate. And then they'll probably gladly let you know, oh, you know what? I'm actually getting ready for a game. I'm super shut down. Or yes, this is actually a boundary for me. I've been meaning to tell you, I didn't appreciate that phone call last night, whatever it might be. So communicate, use your words, and also in the back of your mind, for everyone, reminder, it's not all about us. So when we feel or experience or see something that feels like it's about us, clarify, because it probably isn't. We're all always thinking, everyone's thinking it's about us or whatever. And 9 times out of 10, everyone's really just thinking about themselves. So take a breather and just know it's probably not about you. And if it's like a significant other or a family or something, it might be about you. And that's, you need to probably let it air out for a minute and then revisit and then clarify what's going on. So don't be worried about having the boundary. I think it's really critical. If you feel something, even if you can't explain it and like something just doesn't feel right, take some time for you, know how to use your words, be cautious in how you use your words, because it might be a vulnerable space for the other person to experience this. So pick the right time. But say what it is and don't let things fester and build and what have you. I've definitely done that before. Just say what it is up front and let it air out. And this is particularly hard with people you care about, family, friends, etc. And sometimes boundaries, particularly around the holidays and family and all those things, have to be in place. And we get, as family humans, caught into this tradition and expectation and all these things that we're supposed to do. And those things might be making you miserable. I don't know how many people I know that really genuinely don't like the holidays because there's so much pressure around them. Let that pressure go. And yes, you're going to get flack for not wanting to do the tradition for the millionth year in a row and whatever, but it's 2022. Like, do what you need to do, take care of yourself. And in turn, when you take care of yourself, you will be able to show up 100% in all other areas in your life. And eventually your family or your crew or your significant other will understand why that boundary is in play. So at some point, clearly communicate that, but do not worry about what other people are going to think when you do set that boundary. There will likely be misunderstanding, but don't worry about it. We're going to continue to have these conversations so people on the other side of the boundary understand it's probably not about you. And if it is, be respectful of it. Respect people's boundaries. And in turn, they'll probably come back to you and it'll open up a door for you or the situation to further communicate and further understand why the boundary is in place. So cheers to boundaries. Please don't interpret them as meanness, because it's not about that. Sometimes you just have to keep your personal space, manage expectations from other humans. I know it's really hard. Again, with family and friends, there's so much expectation around holidays and birthdays, and someone's getting married. So you have to show up and be best friends with the significant other and all this. And in reality, that you might be 2 totally different people or 2 totally different situations, or it's a religion you don't identify with, or a sport you don't want to play, or whatever. We're not all the same human. We can't have these overriding expectations on everyone around us. So let it go and respect their boundaries, and in turn, stick to your boundaries. If I got $1 for every time I said boundary on this podcast, I think this would be the first profitable conversation on TNT. I'm just kidding. We're going to monetize this year eventually. Either way, the passion, the heart's bleeding and beating for the passion. So we don't really mind, but boundaries are real. I said it a lot. I hope it stuck to you. Go out there, exercise them today, tomorrow, the next day. And I think people will follow. And in turn, everyone else will be a little bit more happy. Protect your magic on all levels. Have a great day. And I will see you next week. Cheers.
Thank you for joining Turmeric and Tequila with your host, Kristen Olson. Tune in next time, and don't forget to subscribe on Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.